Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering total panic at New York Times as Hollywood admits woke movies are dying. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. Marvel Comics' first graphic novel in a series of graphic novels was called The Death of Captain Marvel. Really appropriate considering she's probably one of the main factors as to why Marvel had to reboot itself and all of Hollywood has to reconsider what kind of movies they're going to make, because they're expected to make money now and people aren't going to woke movies, but they are going to non-woke movies and they are coming out one after another. Whether it's Deadpool and Wolverine or even the new Twister movie, even that movie is not about climate change, which is what's got the New York Times so upset. From the New York Times, Hollywood's message to red states: our movies are for you. After a period of openly using movies to display progressive values, studios seem to be heeding a message from many ticket buyers: just entertain us. And Hollywood knew this. They were just abusing their power to push their woke messaging, to push their ideological messaging, to try to brainwash people. Of course, it doesn't work. No one wants to sit there and watch propaganda. They want a story. They want real things to happen with characters that may not be real people, but resemble real people. For nearly 2 decades, Hollywood has seemingly missed no opportunity to sound the alarm about climate change. In fact, Hollywood does have its own special task force and group of consultants that they use to push climate change into as many movies as they can. From The Atlantic, climate activists are turning their attention to Hollywood. If TV can change Americans' views on gay marriage, why not the environment? Yeah, the reason is, it's not entertaining to be propagandized. If you make a great movie and you happen to have some kind of a message that goes along with your political beliefs or your social ideological beliefs, that's terrific. You can do that, but you actually have to make a good movie. Have real characters in real situations that people can relate to so they can enjoy it, and yeah, they'll get the message of your movie if it's a good movie. However, things have not been going so good for pushing climate change in Hollywood. From The Hollywood Reporter, Hollywood talks big on climate, but what is it really doing? Rival studios and streamers have banded together to battle the crisis. But since there's little accountability, it's unclear how much progress is being made. Accountability? You want to make studios accountable for pushing a certain amount of climate change messaging? Maybe there could be a climate board that controls the content that comes out of the studios. And while you're targeting climate, why don't you just go ahead and target all messaging? You know, China actually does have media control that works exactly that way. They control all the messaging that comes out through all of their entertainment, whether it's produced inside China or outside China. And of course, that's with the tyrannical people that want to control messaging, just to save the planet, just for your own good, just to tell you what to believe, just to tell you which riots are good and which riots are bad. Just let us control all the messaging and all the words and all the ideas. These are some people that are way out of line. It's not out of line if you live in China, but it's out of line in the United States. There have been documentaries, most notably in Inconvenient Truth. Superheroes have been concerned with Batman bemoaning mankind's treatment of the planet in Justice League. Justice League also didn't do as well as they had hoped it would. Nary, an award show goes by without a star or several, begging viewers to take environmental saving action while they fly around in their own private planes. Stop driving so much. Stop going to work. Don't turn on your air conditioner. And when you get to the bottom of it, it's not about giving people choices. It's not about helping other people. What they're pushing is dehumanization. And that's a scary thing to say because it's really a terrible thing to do. Humans live on a certain level compared to animals. And if you're a human being, you want to continue with your family and your friends and your community to live as human beings, to have modern conveniences like air conditioning, to be able to go in a plane on a trip sometime, maybe to even eat a hamburger, the basic things that you do in life. That's not what these people want. They want to centralize, they want to control, they want a message to you and tell you what you can and can't do, and then have the severest consequences that they could possibly think of for, quote, accountability, as they said in The Atlantic. And if you think the accountability is supposed to be for Hollywood and not just for people on the street, that's not how that kind of thing works. Like in China, they need to control everything. And if you violate their rules, God help you. And that's why I do these videos, and that's why we all say no to this nonsense. It was startling to the New York Times when the weather-focused Twisters arrived from Universal Pictures this month with no mention of climate change at all. If ever there was a perfect vehicle to carry Hollywood's progressive climate change messaging, a big-budget movie about people caught in worsening storm patterns, wasn't this it? No, this wasn't it, because that was a weather event. So you're not going to go ahead and take a weather event and tie it into progressive messaging, because if you were to do that, let's just say you went along with it. If the main character or even a side character started to mention, hey, you know what? All these storms kicking up. It's because of the planet heating up. It's because of climate change. Well, that's such a significant statement, then the story kind of has to be about that. No, you don't even bring up a message like that in a good story, because a major message in a story is what the story is about. Apparently not. Movies should not be about preaching a message. Isaac Chung, who directed Twister, said in a pre-release interview that served as a dog whistle to conservative ticket buyers. It served as messaging to say, hey, look, don't think just because I'm making a movie about people dealing with a weather event, it doesn't mean I'm going to preach to you about progressive ideas. And if you're making a movie like that, it actually should be on the movie poster. Because naturally, people are going to assume that weather events in Hollywood, they're going to mix this together with messaging. And it's great to see they didn't do it. Trend spotting in cinema is a hazardous pursuit. Sometimes a movie is just a movie. Twisters, however, is emblematic of a clear shift in Hollywood. After a period of openly using movies to display progressive values, sometimes with success at the box office, like Barbie. And Barbie really, was it progressive? Was it not progressive? It was on brand for what Barbie was. If you went to go see the Barbie movie, you were not shocked by anything that was in the Barbie movie. But Strange World didn't quite do so well. The Marvels didn't do well. The Color Purple or Dark Waters. Studios seem to be heeding a message that many ticket buyers, especially in the center of the country, have been sending for a long time. We just want to be entertained. No homework attached. And if you do a great movie, if you have a great story, people will go do the homework. They will take more interest. If you do a movie about a subject like Oppenheimer, and because the movie was well made, it helps to create interest. They will go and research it. And of course, searches for things related to Oppenheimer blew up after the movie came out. No pun intended. And that's how it's supposed to work. If you've got a message to send, that's fine. Put it inside of a great story, well told, make a good movie, and people will check it out if they're interested. Put bluntly, this amounts to an attempt by Hollywood to bend to red state audiences. Quote, it's a reflection of economics and the desperation of the film industry, said Corby Pons, a movie marketer who focuses on the faith community and is based in Nashville. Quote, we want you to attend our movies. We need you to attend our movies. Disney, which owns 7 studios, including Pixar, Marvel, Lucasfilm, and 20th Century, has put its creative ranks on notice. Quote, we have to entertain first. It's not about messages, according to Bob Iger, Disney's chief executive, who said this at a conference last year. Quote, I don't really want to tolerate the opposite. His comments were a sharp reversal from Disney's shareholder meeting in 2017, when he spoke with pride about more openly weaving socio-political messages into the company's movies. Now, Bob Iger was never a creative. He never actually wrote stories, made television shows. He did work in production, but he didn't put pen to paper and create something new. And if they had a CEO who had done that, they would have known that you can't weave socio-political messages into stories because you're changing the nature of the story. It affects the characters and literally makes it impossible to tell a good story. Not just because it's not a subject that you're interested in, it's because everything in a story has to relate to everything else in a story. It's like a puzzle. You can't just take pieces from other puzzles and stick them in the story puzzle. Because if you mix puzzles, the pieces won't fit. At the time, Bob Iger said, quote, we can take those values, which we deem important societally, and actually change people's behavior. And the truth is, you can try to do that, but it won't be good. And if the movie isn't good, it's not going to get people open to new ideas. For 20 years, Participant Media was Hollywood's preeminent maker of films with a conscience. They've since gone out of business because no one was watching their crappy movies. Quote, An Inconvenient Truth was one of its early successes, but the company shut down in April. Participant relied on studios and streaming services to distribute its Eat Your Broccoli documentaries and dramas about underrepresented communities, and those partners have cut back on such niche content in favor of more populist offerings, things people actually wanted to see. Streaming services like Netflix also started to sell ads, and advertisers prefer all-audience apolitical content. And that's a crucial thing about streaming services. With streaming services relying more and more on advertising from sponsors, the sponsors only want to pay for things people actually are watching. So if you have shows that push an agenda that nobody cares about and nobody watches, it won't generate any significant advertising revenue, which means if it's not good for the advertising revenue, the streamers aren't going to buy it. And the guy who owned Participant Media, pushing out those documentaries, fortunately lost millions and millions and millions of dollars trying to push out his nonsense even before the thing collapsed completely. Paramount describes its current focus as all-audience, flat-out entertaining films. Those include Gladiator 2, one of the most anticipated movies of the fall. But we'll have to see what happens with Gladiator 2. It's already had its own controversy. Many moviegoers don't want agendas or Hollywood telling them what they should be thinking. According to Chris Aronson, Paramount's president of domestic distribution, he cited If, a feel-good PG movie that came out in May about a girl with imaginary friends, as one that resonated strongly with ticket buyers in the heartland. Some stars are steering more directly to the right, although it didn't result in the hit he envisioned. Kevin Costner squarely pitched his Horizon and America Saga Chapter 1 to red state moviegoers last month. Dwayne Johnson, aka The Rock, ever attuned to the marketplace, went on Fox News in the spring to decry woke culture and said he regretted endorsing President Biden in the 2020 election. Universal's approach to Twisters involved positioning the movie as escapist fun and studiously avoiding socio-political issues. The last thing Universal wanted was a film that doubled as a climate change scolding, which would likely repel conservative ticket buyers. Quote, "We couldn't afford to overlook any audience," said Michael Moses, chief marketing officer at Universal. With every decision, it was about how can we include and not exclude. And if you're in marketing and you're trying to sell something, you're not trying to get rid of potential customers. You're trying to get all of the potential customers. Twisters, which cost $155 million to make, not including tens of millions in marketing costs, collected $82 million in ticket sales over its first 3 days in theaters in North America. Roughly 65% more than box office analysts had expected, with red states providing most of the upside. To play up the movie's countrified bona fides, Universal arranged for marketing tie-ins with Ram trucks and Wrangler jeans. Mr. Moses dispatched the film's stars to a Luke Combs concert, where they shotgun Miller beer. Quote, "This movie is killing it for us," said Mike Barstow, executive vice president of Main Street Theaters, which operates 50 screens across Nebraska, Ohio, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Iowa. "It's a relatable story. Our communities deal with tornadoes all the time, but it's also just fun and doesn't feel condescending to rural values. Instead, city dwellers are mocked. Quote, "Kate's from New York," one guy sneers in the film, which was written by Mark Smith. "You can't trust the things she says." Well, I mean, I'm from New York too. What can I say? You can trust me, though. A lot of people in Hollywood only seem to be able to discuss the middle of the country while holding their nose. But entertainment is a reactive business. Chase what worked over the weekend, drop what didn't. And some moviegoers and theater owners in the vast center of the country have recoiled from films that they see as too progressive. Quote, "Warning" read a sign taped to the glass door of an Oklahoma movie theater in 2022. The management of this theater discovered after booking Lightyear that there's a same-sex kissing scene within the first 30 minutes of the Pixar movie. "We will do all we can to fast forward through that scene, but it might not be exact." When we say people just don't want to see things pushed on them and their children, it's really true. And as much as people would like to say who are pushing the agenda, well, you need to accept it. You've got to pay attention to it. You've got to let us teach your kids about it. The answer is going to always be no. There was a line outside of that same theater over the weekend to see Twisters, which played on 2 of its 3 screens. Quote, "Go woke, go broke" jokes in some ways have calcified into conventional film industry wisdom. Disney's storytelling shift came after an extended period in which the company was attacked by conservative pundits and politicians. Rival studios watched in terror, afraid they might be next. And of course they would be next. It's not that there was so much criticism and attacks and whatever it was. People just didn't like what they were doing, and they were insulted by them trying to destroy American myths, American brands, Lucasfilm, Marvel, Pixar stories, and even Disney's own classic animation brand. Of course, they're going to criticize it, and they're not going to spend their hard-earned money on it. More than ever, studios need every dollar they can find. Most are part of larger entertainment conglomerates that are under severe pressure to boost revenue, not to mention profit, as traditional cable channels wither and streaming services struggle with high programming costs. Last summer, ticket buyers in red states caught Hollywood's attention when they turned Sound of Freedom. Made independently for $15 million, it collected $184 million in the United States alone, beating big-budgeted Indiana Jones and Mission Impossible sequels. Hollywood has not recovered from the pandemic, in part because pandemic closures were followed by 2 lengthy union strikes against studios. Ticket sales so far this year in North America total $4.3 billion, down roughly 35% from the same period in 2019, according to ComScore. As studios try to come back, the Heartland represents a specific opportunity. Ticket buyers in red states were the fastest to return to theaters after the pandemic, while those in coastal cities were the slowest. Some large markets, including San Francisco, have not fully recovered, according to studio distribution executives. As Sarah Unger, the co-founder of Cultique, a firm in Los Angeles that advises companies on changing cultural norms, wrote in an entertainment industry newsletter on Wednesday, quote, "Hollywood is missing a massive audience in plain sight." Is this the death of Captain Marvel? Is this the end of Hollywood taking brands and destroying them deliberately to promote social change that they approve of at the top of the company? Yeah, it looks like it's pretty much the end of it. That's not to say they won't put in some crazy storylines here and there, and that's not to say they won't have some strange background characters, but I wouldn't go looking for the next Captain Marvel movie anytime soon. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.